What is up, guys? Welcome to the Happy Russell Journey episode 2. In this episode, I'm going to be having a conversation with my very good friend Kieran Dhanjal about the Black Lives Matter movement. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a really good conversation. My perspective has definitely been changed because of it. Enjoy. All right, Kieran.
What's up?
Welcome to the Happy Russell Journey.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to be going through a bit of a minefield today. We're going to be discussing this whole Black Lives Matter movement, hopefully bouncing a few ideas off, and just trying to help me make sense of it, I guess.
Okay.
So first of all, where do you stand on the entire sort of Black Lives Matter movement, how it's all been conducted?
I think it's positive. I think it's being conducted fine. To me it's positive. I don't have much criticism about it. I don't have a lot of everything they've done. I've been like, amazing, fucking great. It's about time that we need this kind of radical change to have people listen finally. Because for so long, we've been seeing so many of these videos, and we know it's happening around us. We know this is the thing. We know that society, and Western society especially, and has been set up in a way to marginalize those who aren't white, and it's been the most detrimental to black people, especially.
When I'm talking about this, I'm always trying to sort of find the root cause of the issues rather than sort of seeing how things are conducted. So where I'm seeing most of the problems come from, I would say it's not necessarily systematic. There's definitely something systematic that needs to change about sort of the policing structure, but I would say it's more cultural than systematic. What do you feel about that?
What do you mean cultural? In what sense?
So, let's say you've got two people accused for the same crime. One's white, one's black. The chances are that black person is going to have a longer jail sentence than the white person. Now, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with the system in place of putting people in jail. It's the jury and the judge, I suppose, that sentences that person. That's the cultural aspect that I think that needs reforming a bit more, and it's more creating awareness.
Okay.
For
are you aware of the 13th Amendment?
I know, like, the second one's guns, innit?
Yeah, the second one is the right to bear arms. Yeah.
What's the 13th Amendment?
Obviously, we don't have it here, but in America, I'll preface this by saying in America, all the prisons are private prisons. The prison system in America is a business. It's an industry. The 13th Amendment, I don't know it off by heart, but it basically says that you are not a slave unless you are in jail, you are a criminal. Then you lose your freedom. So with the knowledge of that, and the extreme wealth divide between black people, white people in America, you have a disproportionate amount of arrests towards ethnic minorities. Black people and in America, black people and Latino people, Hispanics. So they're the ones who occupy jail cells. So in a sense, black people aren't really free. They have to live their life in fear of. I'm obviously speaking on behalf of a race I'm not part of.
No, but you can empathise. You can still understand what they're going through.
Like, to have that as a possibility of, like, from what I understand, black families in America have to have a chat about the police. Like how you have, like, a birds and the bees talk. Well, I didn't have one, but I know a lot of white families do. But
you found out the natural way.
Yeah, man. And black people have the cops chat, the police chat of, look, they're going to treat you differently. This is what the country is like.
And well, I'm gonna say I do feel a lot of the problems do stem from America more so than England. I'm not saying that England doesn't have its problems; it does, but America definitely more so. And okay, I'm just bouncing an idea off. Do you feel a lot of that comes from the fact that American culture seems to have immortalized the what was it, the
13th Amendment.
Yeah, they've sort of immortalized these amendments, so you can't really change those. Like, I've tried talking to Americans about that, and they seem to say that these amendments are sort of core in moral, like they're core in moral value. Like, it's to them, it's almost objective.
I can see that. However, if you think, I think it runs a bit deeper than that. If you think about the origins of America, modern America, what it is now, what is its foundations? It's built on being a thief, and genocide. That's how the country was built. There were people already there before European settlers came over. Those people came from Asia. They crossed over Russia, the tip of Russia and Alaska, when it was an ice bridge. Crossed over, settled into the Americas. They were the first ones there. Then Europeans came over. Mate, Christopher Columbus was trying to find India. Went the wrong way and hit America.
This will do.
Yeah, he was like, I'm trying to find a shortcut and hit America. He didn't even know it was there. So then all these European settlers came and they just stole the land. They killed off so many of these people. They stole the land and they set up there. And when the Spanish set up in South America, the French, the English, the Irish, the Italians, in North America, around that same time, from what I understand, the trading also began. Well, not really began, but like it kind of set up in Africa.
I'm going to pause you just there because I've got this light like glaring on my screen.
Okay.
It's going to mess with the video.
You should probably do the other one.
That's better.
That's better. That's better.
So you were saying it was essentially founded by people stealing land,
committing genocide, and then they began the slave trade to build this new nation. You took people from Africa and were like, get in this boat, come here, get in this boat, we're going to go to this country. And then they just kept them as slaves. They human trafficked to build this country.
The problem also stemmed from Africa as well, right? Because they were also the ones supplying the slaves. Like, it's this. There's always.
I don't know about that though. Were they supplying it? Why would anyone supply? Like, why would
greed?
A nation's Africa's a wealthy, in terms of resources, very wealthy continent. They already had trade links with Europe. They had trade links with the Middle East. So why would you sell off your own people to go off and build a new land, unless they were tricked, unless they were promised something else, and then they got there and realized they were being sold. See what I mean? The thing is, this is also another problem, that why it's gotten this far and why it's getting to this point now is because we are not educated about this. My knowledge of this is quite minimal. However, I have common sense about it because I just think about it. Like, it's gotten to a point where, because of being a brown person in England, I've had to think about it. I've had to think about my place here, because mostly where I've lived and where I've gone to, the majority of people are white. So I've been like, where are the fucking brown people? Why don't these people look like me? So I've had to think about this.
Do you feel like that's set you back in any way, or Do you feel England's not
It's,
too bad for that?
my experience is quite different. I don't feel very connected to this country. I don't feel English.
You've been here all your life, though, right?
Yeah. I was born here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, I have no patriotism to England. I have no patriotism to Britain. At all. None.
Why do you feel that is? Is it just because of your the color of your skin, or do you think it runs a little bit deeper than that? Well, I mean, then it's sort of like the discussion of, is patriotism a good thing or a bad thing? Like, I'm not saying that you should be patriotic, but
I don't think it's a bad thing. But I know my reasonings for why I don't necessarily like this country, or how it's run. I like the country in terms of geographically.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It's a beautiful country. Its countrysides are amazing. It has on a sunny day I can go to a park and it's beautiful. There's a forest behind my house, which is lovely. It is the best thing about living here. When it is summer, it is hot. I don't like it when it's cold. I get really bad seasonal depression. So like when it rains and shit, it's quite detrimental. But when it's sunny, I love it.
Oh, you got to learn to dance in the rain, my friend.
No, I do. Seriously, man, a real bad seasonal depression. I need vitamin D, man. I need vitamin D.
So I'm dancing.
But like in terms of my patriotism of what this country has done, what it holds itself as, and what government we have, I'm not proud of it because I had no part of it. Where I'm from India. My family's from India. I don't know shit about where I'm from. Not really, man. And there's multiple factors for this. One, because of how my parents brought me up. How my grandparents brought me up was a major issue. I was quite disconnected from a lot of my extended family for most of my life. I don't really know them now either because of that. So I didn't really have the Indian Sikh community of family community growing up. So I didn't really find an attachment there. And it's also that if you think about it, I shouldn't be here. I should be living in India. Like my family migrated from India to Kenya because the British wanted Punjabi Indians, North Indian people to build railways in Kenya because it was a British colony. So my family moved there, and then because there was a lot of immigration from India to Kenya, to West Africa, so like Kenya, Tunisia, Uganda, there started to be quite a bit of conflict. There's a Ugandan leader, I've forgotten his name. But from what I understand, I didn't like a lot of this immigration happening and caused this conflict. So then a lot of families moved out of West Africa. Most of them came to the UK. So that's how I kind of came here. My dad was born in Kenya. But in terms of connecting myself as originally Indian to my roots, this country has done nothing for that.
Wait, what do you mean with that last part? What do you mean by that?
In terms of why I don't have patriotism or don't like this country. Because I don't have patriotism to this country, but I'm also disconnected from where I'm from.
So you're just a little bit lost at the moment, right? Like
yeah, man. I mean, lost for like in terms of a national identity. I do relate to being more Indian than I do British. And that's only been recently.
Why do you feel that's come about? Just because you've been thinking about the history behind the cultures and where you came from?
Oh, yeah. My way of thinking and like how I kind of want to live is more in lines of being Indian and...
But that's that's fine. You can still take like the Indian sort of not philosophies, but lifestyle, and I suppose you can't really because it's not. It
This
doesn't.
isn't India, man.
Yeah, no,
This is
no, you
not
can't.
India. They're worlds apart, dude.
Yeah,
These are two very different countries.
I mean, you said that you shouldn't be here,
Technically,
but
no, but I am.
but you are. So
Yeah,
and you were born and raised here. I don't know. I'm just hearing this from a perspective that I've never really had any experience in, with myself. I've lived in America for 5 years, and I understand that's a completely different culture. Like I didn't feel welcomed in America. Well, I know I felt very welcomed in America. That's a lie. I didn't feel like I belonged in America. They weren't, but that was more of a cultural thing. I feel like the culture is more what you're born into, not necessarily where the rest of your family is from. Like I'm not
This is what's weird about it.
right. That's what I'm trying to say. Like you were born here. Like so, I feel like I'm not telling you how you should feel, but I kind of feel like you should feel like you belong here. I feel like you should sort of identify with Britain, and you don't have to necessarily be proud of it and what it is. But like, do you see yourself as British, or do you see yourself more as you don't?
No.
Oh.
But I will say this. First and foremost, I don't see myself actually as a national identity. I just see myself as a living thing.
Now that's what I wanted to get onto next. Actually, I'm glad you said that, because that's where I feel a lot of this clash comes from. It comes from this sort of dualistic us versus them mentality. Like it's always to me it feels like okay, so we've got on this one side we've got the Black Lives Matter movement, and on the other side you've got this let's say All Lives Matter movement. Right, that's a fair sort of assumption, just to generalize things and make it a bit easier. Whatever side you're on that side because you're identifying with something you either want. You're either identifying with a change that you want to see, or you're identifying with the status quo and you don't want that to change. So for example, with the All Lives Matter movement, I don't want to speak for people either, so I feel like it was like you when you were saying you're speaking for black people, and I don't want to speak for like the All Lives Matter movement because maybe I've got it wrong, but I feel a lot of that resistance comes from their attachments to the status quo. They're sort of putting their sort of egos into the culture and they don't want to see change.
Yeah, I see that. I just see that people who respond to Black Lives Matter with All Lives Matter, they just don't get it. That's what I see. Because what this movement is that, yes, all lives do matter. However, in this society, Black lives are being portrayed and the actions towards them show that they don't matter in the society. This is what it is. That's all it's saying. They don't want... It's like being... It's just equality, man. It's just equality. It's like, no matter where you're from, the colour of your skin, what gender you are, what religion you are, you should be treated exactly the same no matter what society you were brought up in. And that's not happening. Right. And it's not been happening for a long time.
So, speaking from like the All Lives Matter movement, I get it, and ideally, yeah, I see what you mean. It's all about equality, but I'm gonna put sort of like a bit of a far out idea there and see if you see what you think of it. How do you feel a lot of issues also come from with identifying with your race, so placing your identity into your race? No.
It can. However, I don't think so. It can, but I don't think this is what this is right now.
What do you feel it is?
It's just a fight for equality. This is what I feel this is now. It's a fight for equality. It's a fight for ethnic minorities, mainly black people, to not be singled out
Well,
in the society they live in.
Right, so if people were looking through a lens where they didn't see race, in a sense, then that would be, that's what I'm saying. Like, that would be it.
It would, but that's not going to happen because where how many countries, over like 150, like up to 200 countries in this that we have decided exist. You put borders around everything to show that the English own this, the French own this land, the Germans own this land. So inherently, you're born into a labelled society, right?
Right, and that's your culture. But I don't see why race has to play a part in the culture. I don't know why you have to identify with a particular race when you're born into that culture. I mean, I know it's, and that's why I'm trying to get to a point where, you know, hopefully we can sort of lift this sort of illusion of the identification with things like race.
But it gives you your identity. It gives you the sense of the person that you are, even without
subconsciously
attaching yourself to some sort of toxic ideal of an ego in terms of ego identity. It's just like in terms of you understand where you're from, you understand where your family have come from, you understand what your people are like, you understand what kind of community you come from, and the natural innate personality you have, how that has come to being.
So I might be making like a huge fallacy here. So like, you know, call me out if I am. But let's say you're an albino that's born into an African country. So for all intents and purposes, you've got white skin, you know, more pale than me. Would you say that person still identifies with that culture, or, you know, do they not now because their pigment's different? Or am I being fallacious, or?
I think so.
How?
Because we understand, like, that's a weird one, but then we understand that that's just, like, it's a weird one, that, because they have the facial features of someone.
They do.
Of a black person.
They do.
Their skin just isn't black.
They definitely, yeah, okay, so they still have the facial features, but I mean, again, that's sort of making these attachments onto just physical features, you know. I mean, if another extreme example, if actually, yeah, you probably would. I was going to say, if you sort of like burnt your face and, you know, you weren't really recognizable anymore, would you sort of change your identity?
No.
Like, in a, huh? Just say
in
no.
a way, in a way,
yes, but it doesn't.
Fucking traumatic.
but it doesn't change who you are at your core. It doesn't sort of change the you, and that's what I'm saying. Why this racial divide isn't necessary. It's sort of like an illusion that's put in place to sort of create more separation.
But who put? But this is the thing. White people put that in.
Yeah.
This is the thing. White people put this in.
Yeah,
they did. But
now I want to bring it back out. I don't want it anymore.
So does everyone else. Well, not everyone else, but so there's this Black Lives Matter movement. That's what they're trying to do. It's the same thing. And
I'm not saying the Black Lives Matter movement is bad in any sense as well either. I'm just trying to sort of find the root cause of the problems, and I think it is the identifications, that attachment to these physical assets that we have no control over, that create those divides. I mean, that, and, you know, media definitely plays a part in sort of, you know, clickbaiting these divides as well.
I'll give you an example. Give me an example. All right, in India, you know, like Indian caste system,
Yeah.
yeah. It's that caste system is like, old.
Yes.
Real old. It's ingrained into that country. Been around before European settlers came in. But once European settlers came in, they weaponized that caste system. They weaponized it to put them on top.
Tell me more about that, because I know about the class system, but I don't know about what the European settlers did to that class system.
Well, they came in. They were like, this country's got a lot of shit going on. We could take advantage of this, as European settlers have done. And they asserted their dominance over the country, ruled over the country for, I think, I can't remember the exact years. It was a few hundred years that they were there. And throughout that time, they just used that caste system to be like, we are now royalty and we have the lightest skin.
Yeah, we've got the best class.
Yeah. Basically, they're like, yeah, we're number one. We're the guys. And you've heard of Untouchables.
No.
So, like, I can't remember the actual name of them, but they're known in Indian society as the Untouchables.
Yeah.
They are the darkest skinned.
Yeah.
And they basically just, the society doesn't care for them. And that's been installed by the first European settlers who came in. Because they were like, yeah, we're not going to fuck with you guys. We're only going to take the most beautiful light-skinned women, mate with them, to make them even lighter-skinned. So, like, if you when you go to India, a lot of the North Indians are quite more lighter-skinned than South Indians. Just because of where they travelled. The two halves are very different. Speak different languages. Seems like different kind of
different cultures.
The same Indian cultures, less outside influence, because obviously it's further down, and obviously like you got just where North India is, you've got Afghanistan, Middle East, and you just like kind of come through there. Then you go towards into like Bangladesh, China. So not many people went down to the bottom. And even in that, my family's from Amritsar, which is in Punjab. Punjabi people have been are known as like third-class citizens in their own country. So even within the country, there is divide of the people, but that also came from like because the first kind of area that invaders come through is Punjab. Is one of the first areas to get from like what is now Pakistan, which was India. From Afghanistan through Pakistan, they hit the Punjab and they get into like mainland, proper like the most of the country is. So it's like the culture in Punjab is quite tough and it's quite is seen as like a warrior class.
But I mean this is still my point, because you know I think we can hopefully agree that class system is bad.
Oh yeah.
Like I mean it's identifying with something that you have no control over. It's something that you're born into that doesn't necessarily play a part into who you are as an individual.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And that's sort of what I'm saying. That's sort of also what I'm saying with our culture over here. Mm-hmm. That it's not as bad as the class system, but it's still bad. We're still seeing us and them instead of like you said at the beginning, that you just see yourself as like, what did you say, an individual or a living thing? A living thing. Yeah, you're not seeing another living thing. You're seeing a label.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point I'm coming from. I'm trying to sort of break or raise awareness that we don't need to have these labels. We don't.
I 100% agree with you.
There we go.
I 100% agree with you, but realistically, that's not going to happen, because that's not through the education system and the society we are brought up in. We are not taught that.
Not yet.
No, no. In an ideal world, it'd be just like, yeah, it's just two people, and we base our judgment off the interaction, not the outside influence. However, what is also evolutionary in this is that our brains are built to judge the environment around us, so they're also very easily manipulated at a young age to judge the appearance of things that you're just told to do and not to question.
Yeah, your brain sort of naturally sees us and them.
Yeah, like when you're a kid, you're naturally curious because you want to gain the information to judge it on a hands-on experience. That, in my opinion, should not be interfered with in terms of you let that child play, you let that child be curious, but you do not influence their judgment at the end result.
Dude, I can remember being so confused by the first northern accent I ever heard. That threw me off big time as a kid because I lived in this little village. I had a school that had like 30 kids in it, and I can just there was this new kid that came in, and I can remember him, saying like, he's going to sit on the grass. What's grass?
Oh man, see,
Sorry, a bit off topic.
I've had like opposite experience to you, in terms of my mum works for British Airways and has done for 26 years now. So when I was younger, I was born in 95. So literally as far back as I can remember, I've always gone to different countries. So from a very young age, I've seen a lot of the world. So I was able to like make my own mind up of what these kind of what people are like, what Arabs are like, Americans are like.
It's a wonderful opportunity, dude.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was amazing. Saw a lot of the world. So I've been able to see different cultures. I've been able to see how different people speak. Be able to see how different societies speak, and how they just interact and what they do. And it's a lot of the same. It's a lot of the same.
The thing that I'm sort of trying to wrap my head around and to try and find a way that we can do this. I mean, one of the only ways that I think we can do this is by having these sort of conversations and sort of raising awareness to our own attachments and how frivolous it is to be identified with. Well, I personally feel it's quite frivolous to be identified with your race, but I think Morgan Freeman nailed it when he said, "If you want to beat racism, stop talking about it." But I don't know if we're in that place where we can yet. I
disagree with that. Because
you disagree with that?
If you don't, at this point, I disagree with it. As in what's happening now. Because if we didn't talk about it, the same shit was going to keep going on. And then what's going to happen? Like, if you just don't talk about it, don't act about it, the people who put these things and these societal norms in place, and the people who are honouring those fucked up social norms are just getting away with it. Because yeah, it's here in America and in Europe, if you're born white, you have an advantage because that's what these societies are built to cater for. When I was in school, man, like, I found it weird I had to go to church for Christmas. I found it strange. I was like, I'm not even Christian. Why am I here?
Right.
And I used to think to myself, like, why am I getting Christmas off? Why am I getting Easter off? But I don't get Diwali off.
Right.
But I don't get Vasaki off. And then I'd be like, why are we learning always about World War One? Why are we always learning about World War Two? Why is that the only history I know in school?
It's pretty much
What
all I've
about-
got. I mean, I
what
also
about
know
the
about
rest of
Henry
the
VIII.
world? It's another thing. Henry VIII as well. Like the Tudors and the. Not to say not that stuff's interesting, because it is. Like Tudors and medieval era.
But it doesn't really matter.
Not in the grand scheme of things, man. If you think about how the history of England and Britain compared to the history of the rest of the world, and what the British Empire was, and how many countries it got to, how many countries it influenced, and the amount of cultures that came from those countries to here, surely you cater for them. Surely you are like, okay, we built this empire. We did oppress a lot of them. we did basically go we're like, yeah, we got better weapons than you, and we're going to take this country.
Yeah, well,
and it's like,
when I'm talking about culture as well and what we identify with, I would say I'm pretty patriotic, but I wouldn't say that I'm patriotic to what this country was. I would say that I'm sort of patriotic to what this culture is now and sort of is becoming, and I'm not happy with all of it either. Like, I'm not like a diehard. You know what I mean, don't you? I'm not going to blindly follow my country no matter what. I'm going to sort of weigh it up and try and see the good and bad in everything. But I mean, I'm bouncing here because there's a few things that I want to actually reel back in. Because at the very start we mentioned that you think that everything the Black Lives Matter movement has done so far is good, and like for the most part, yeah, I can sort of agree with that. But I mean, are there not some actions in there that you also condemn as well? I mean, like I've seen crazy videos where they've been like setting police on fire.
Where?
Couldn't tell you where exactly. Online.
Online. and how do you know they're Black Lives Matter protesters?
Well, you don't. Well, I guess you don't. It could just be people looking to start.
This is another point I wanted to bring up. So you know when it was all starting, and there were looters, and there were people just vandalizing. They are not Black Lives Matter protesters. And this is another thing of. I made this point at the beginning when I was talking to my brother about this, that I understand why people are rioting, and I understand why people are looting. In the grand scheme of things, of what they're trying to accomplish and what Black people have gone through, and the number of lives that have been lost, just without reason, a bit of looting doesn't really matter. However, they're not Black Lives Matter protesters. Fucking Jake Paul got arrested. You know Jake. You know. Jake
I don't know Jake Paul.
Oh fuck!
Don't even worry about it.
Fucking stupid YouTuber guy is absolute idiot, man. He got arrested looting because it's an excuse to loot, and that's what a lot of people are doing. Black Lives Matter people, they're protesting peacefully. There are videos online of Black Lives Matter protesters seeing public vandalism and turning those people into the police.
And this is also where I think a lot of chaos could have been avoided. Can you imagine a world where the Black Lives Matter movement protested peacefully at the start like they did, and then you had all of these off-duty police officers that were there showing their support, condemning actions of bad policing?
Sorry, say that again.
Right, so what I'm saying is, like, can you imagine what the world would be like now if, you know, we had the peaceful protests at the start, and instead of it being Black Lives Matter versus the system, that off-duty police officers were actually in the crowds of the Black Lives Matter movement condemning the actions of poor police or poor police work.
Well, there has been.
Not that's been put on air. Not a lot of it. You don't see it.
But here's
I
the
don't
thing.
see
This
it.
is also the problem as well. This is another point I'm going to bring up, which relates to what I was talking about before. The looters and the rioters and those who like burning, like publicly vandalizing cities, are not helping the movement, because mass media and the government, that's what they gravitate towards. It's Tinder for mass media. They're just gonna here. It's free publicity. It's free labeling of
click.
Yeah, man. It's not helpful. And this is what I was saying to my brother, that like I get all the looting, people are rioting. However, they're not protesters. They're doing it because they're seeing an opportunity to just steal, and they're going to get lumped in with the actual peaceful protesters to distract the public to seeing the actual message of what's to happen. And this is and we've been seeing it. And this is where it's also important. I've seen videos of police departments and police chiefs being like, "We're not these guys, man.
Right.
We're not these guys." It's not seen enough.
I mean, these past like, few weeks have been like mentally exhausting just through looking at like the news feed and what comes on your phone. Like, you just look at Facebook for a second and there's atrocious actions on both sides. I've seen police shoot rubber bullets in people's faces. I've seen people completely unprovoked, like a group of mob just like wailing on policemen, like unprovoked.
I mean, think about what happened in London over the weekend. Black Lives Matter protesters cancelled their march, and what? Very smart, by the way.
Yeah.
Very clever to anticipate what was going to happen. And who's inciting the violence? Right-wing, racist, white people. Like, they're the ones attacking the police. Yet, I've not like. I don't know. It just seems so weird that like that happens, and the general public aren't like. Wait a second. Wait a second. I need to think about this. Like, maybe we need to change some things here. Like maybe Boris needs to get his finger out his ass and do something about it.
But I mean, that brings me back to my point earlier on, where I feel like the problems are cultural, not system. Oh, that light is glaring again. Sorry, I'm going to keep talking. I won't be able to hear you though. So that's where I feel the problems are cultural and not necessarily systematic, in the sense that.
Well, they've become culture. They've become culture now.
I don't.
They're systematic because they're They're cultural because they are systematic. The education system here does not. In my eyes, it does not prep you to think of the bigger picture till you go to university. Like.
Okay, so we're back rolling. We're back rolling.
Cool.
Sorry.
Obviously, I'm seeing it from different perspectives to you are, obviously. Through my eyes, you're not taught to question the things you're being taught until you get to university. It's too late, man. Like, until I'm like 18, and it's like, okay, now critically think about all the things that you're reading. It's like, well, I've just had like all these years of school. And I've got to now critically think about this. But then that's what you should be doing from the start. But then things will be. Here's how I feel like it should be going forward, man. You need to be taught about other cultures. You need to be taught about other people. You need to be shown Asian culture, South Asian culture, African culture, South American culture, Eastern European culture, like Scandinavian culture. Like, you need to be exposed to it from a young age. So when you do get older, you're not like judging these people on prejudices that you have got from your parents and the system around you, or whatever like political party your parents are aligned to, and their values come down to you, and then you go through life like with this clouded judgment on things. I like when I was growing up, it's even in my family, dude. Like it permeates a lot of things. Like when I was younger and I started to be interested in girls, my parents would tell me bluntly, no Muslims, no blacks.
Wow.
They'll say that to me, and it's something I need to recognize that it's not just my family. This is also my culture, because there is also anti-blackness in the Indian culture.
Right.
It's anti-Muslim rhetoric in Indian culture. And this is why it's also, from my end, this is why it's also a very interesting topic, because as well as being oppressed, we are the oppressors.
Yeah.
My
Layers upon layers.
Dude, we've done white people's bidding around the world. We've gone to West Africa and we've set up camp. I feel like I've seen it. My auntie lives in a place in Kenya called Eldoret. Lives in a gated community. They're all Indians, and they all have Kenyan servants.
Whoa.
It's weird. It's very weird. It's very, very strange. You go to the town centre and there's not a brown person in sight. It's very strange. And you see, it permeates through culture. And the only reason I feel like that's happened is because they've installed that you got lighter skin, therefore you're entitled to this. However, you haven't got as light a skin as us, so know your place. But you could go here and do this shit, and we won't say a thing. Like, and this is what's also the problem is, like, it's happened for so long that it's infiltrated other cultures, including my own.
I mean, yeah, this is why I like talking about this stuff as well, because like people and cultures are infinitely fascinating. Like, and I'm oblivious to most of this. I spent most of my life in a little village. I don't know anything outside Maidstone, you know.
Hey man, I grew up in Slough, man.
Yeah.
Grew up in Slough. Then came to Bracknell. I went from the brownest place in the southeast to the whitest place.
What's your thoughts on the statues being torn down?
I think it's sick. I think it's great.
I mean, depending on the statue. What about the Churchill statue? That's the big one that's gone on. You like that one?
Yeah, I thought it was sick, man. It's a statue. It's a statue, dude. If someone defaced Gandhi's statue, but there was validity to it, I'd be like, fine. If he did it, fine. Yeah, he did good, but he also did some bad. He probably did some bad things. Churchill
for
sure,
but
he was also quite racist.
Oh, yeah, but when you're looking at these statues, you're not really seeing the person as a whole. You're seeing sort of a personification, and I know there's sort of the argument of, well, should you glorify a person on just the good and not recognize the person as a whole? But I
should recognize the whole, as well as like. A lot of this uproar of the Churchill defacing wouldn't happen if you're taught in school what else he did.
You're right.
like
Damn it.
like it's cool. Yeah, he defeated Nazi Germany. Cool, fucking sick, man. But you also were very hard on immigration, and you made it very hard for Windrush generation to like settle.
But so should we not glorify Churchill at all for what he did, or should we just be aware of the person as a whole?
Just be aware. Let people make their minds up.
Yeah.
About him. That's it. Just teach the facts and let people make their minds up. That's it. This is what I mean by like it's not a matter of teaching lies. They've purposely purposely built this school curriculum so you're not shown all the facts.
They purposely gave him the persona that the
Dude.
culture's been now sort of conditioned to glorify.
Yeah, man. Like, when I was learning about Henry VIII, I was like, this is a bad dude. I was like, what the hell? He's a selfish guy, man. Like, how is he tearing apart this nation because he can't have a son? Like, what is this guy? Like, what the hell? But that's because they taught the facts. They told you the 6 wives, what happened to them, what happened to the Catholic Protestant churches at the time, how he divided the country. We were taught this. And then I made my mind of being like, he's a pretty bad dude. But it's history, you know? It happened. It's like, yes, the slave trade happened. But you need to recognize it. You need to recognize it. Be like, this is bad. And here, this is what we're going to do to rectify it. It's happening in Germany now. Yes, they have their problems of neo-Nazism. However, what happened in Germany is not secret. And they've purposely move forward and recognize their mistakes to build a better future. This is what we need to do. It's just acknowledgement. Like, so much, I feel like so much would happen if so many governments around the world were just like fully just like held their hands up of like, yes, through these actions this country has done this, and just laid it all out and was like, this is what we're going to do to make it up to you, to make sure everything is equal. And it's just like, they are the ones who changed. Unfortunately, those in power changed the culture.
I was going to say that those in power
First.
sort of control the future, or, you know, or at least control the past.
They make the most change. But it's change that should be done by listening to the people. They're civil servants, man. They're serving us. They're not serving themselves. But at the moment, I just see them as serving themselves. They're not listening to us. And this is also another thing of like why I don't feel like I'm proud of this country, because no government that has been in power and no opposition government I have aligned to at all. I do not see any value in any political party that has come about in my lifetime so far. There's also another reason of why I don't feel very proud of this country or where we're going, because the values are all fucked up.
Well,
They're all the same.
no, any party you're looking at, you're still looking at a party that still promotes that us versus them mentality.
Yes, and it should be a collective effort. It all should be a collective effort. So much can get done if you work together with everybody else and not think your ideals are better than someone else's.
And when you say collective effort, I know that a lot of people sort of put their heels in and sort of say, well, now you're diminishing the value of the individual, so to speak. You know, you're putting the group first before the individual, but
Yeah, I am.
well, no. In the sense of
communities were not built from one person. Tribes did not survive because one person was like, I'm gonna run this shit. Tribes and communities survived because it was a group effort.
yeah.
Because it was a collective understanding of what everyone knew what they should do, because it was transparent.
Dude, this conversation has been like eye-opening, dude.
It's not transparent right now, man.
I still feel my main core beliefs going into this were, and I still hold them, that and I think we're on agreement that it's these labels that divide us. But man, you've hit it on the head with the education system. I never really thought about that.
Oh,
before.
dude, man, I've thought this for a while. Again, I come from a different set of eyes than you do.
Yeah.
Because the education system is catered for you.
I'm like, yeah.
Not for me. I'm like, where, like, I see none of these people who look like me. Like, what about my history?
But that's also something that I'm not totally a fan of. Like, I don't see why people, or why you feel disconnected just because you look different to other people. I don't.
Oh, no, it's not that.
Okay.
It's not that. I'm saying I don't feel connected to the country, to the idea of being British, the idea of being English because of those things. I'm not like I don't look at you and be like I don't connect with you because of the color of your skin.
Right, in the same way that, you know, I don't connect to you because of like your hair color or what have you. Like
Yeah. It's
it's
superficial.
yeah.
But in terms of ideals, intentions, and beliefs, it's different. And that's what I go off.
Well, but yeah. So, I mean, I identify with being patriotically British, but I would say I have a lot of. I'm heavily embedded in sort of Taoist philosophy, and that's sort of where I try to sort of frame my sort of perception on reality.
Yeah.
I'm still patriotically British, so I still feel like those are two different things. I still feel like you can be patriotically British and sort of adjust your perception in a way that sort of has a bit more awareness and harmony with it.
We see, for like, I get that and I understand that, but from how I see it, and how I've seen this for a while, I see Britain as trying to hold traditions that just don't work anymore. And I especially see it in government where it's like they just refuse not to change.
I mean, there are traditions that I love, traditions that I not really a fan of, but like when I talk about being patriotically British, I'm talking about traditions like going to the pub on a Friday night, having a roast dinner on a Sunday, cup of tea in the
shit.
No,
I didn't.
Not even roast dinner
because I didn't grow up in a British family.
Yeah.
I didn't do that shit. I had home cooked meals every fucking day.
Yeah.
I didn't have fish and chips. I had a lot of tea, but tea ain't British, bruv. I hate to break it to you.
Well, it's become British, hasn't it? Like, you know, culture changes. Culture changes. You can't.
Hey man,
say...
Indians love tea too. We've got masala tea, bruv.
I mean,
sick.
I was going to say you've got tea that doesn't need to be diluted with milk and sugar. You got like the good stuff.
I still like pinch of milk. Man.
Like loose leaf. Oh, that's the tea you want.
I love loose leaf. Yeah, man. Look, all teas are great. I love tea. All right.
This could take up an hour. Maybe we should move away from tea because I freaking love tea, dude.
Yeah, I do love tea. but in terms of that kind of thing, I didn't do that.
I'm empathizing with your position a bit more. I can see why you don't identify so much with that sort of typical British culture, that typical little Englishman.
What was cool? The one thing that I did identify with that I thought was really cool, that doesn't happen anymore. It's only happened for, I'd say like up until like 2002, 2003. We would have street parties.
Dude, I remember those.
We'd have proper street parties, and I'd be like, I was a young kid, and like it was all where I used to live in Slough. It was all families.
Yeah.
So
the whole community comes out.
That was amazing. I loved that, but then it stopped.
Yeah, we used to have that in the village.
Yeah, dude, it was amazing. That was one thing I was like, if there's one thing to identify as being British with, it's those street parties, man. They were cool. They were so cool, so much fun, but they stopped for whatever reason. They just stopped.
You know what I'm gonna do?
What?
I'm going to do my best to see if I can get myself in contact with the local council and see what I can do about organising a street party. You've inspired me. I want to bring some...
You don't need the council, just invitations.
Well, I mean, you can't really have a street party and like close off a road without the council being like, yeah, that's cool.
You have a cul-de-sac.
We do have a cul-de-sac.
Just do the cul-de-sac. You know why? You have a street party on the main road, man. I'm not going to go on the M25 and be like street party on the ring road. Nah, I lived in a cul-de-sac when it happened. You know. So like local street, send out invitations. Be like, we're gonna have a street.
Once we've got through this pandemic, we'll have like a celebratory street party. I'll have one in my area. You have one in your area. We'll have a great time.
It ain't happening here.
You're like, nah.
It's not. There's too many houses here. No one. I don't know. I only know I'm in a terrace of 4. I'm in the middle. I know
Okay.
that side quite well. I know who they are. I don't talk to them. That's it. Oh, I know Chris.
Oh, good old Chris.
Irish guy. Fucking jokes. That's it. There's at least it's over 100 houses here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
150. Yeah, it's a big street.
Yeah.
It's a street, then it cuts off into like other smaller sections.
And then you've got like probably like 200, 300 residents and like.
Yeah, it's like flats as well.
Yeah, nah.
In Slough, there was 20 houses down my street, so it was easier. Everyone knew each other. Yeah, I can't do it.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up there because I mean you've given me a lot to think about, and I think these actually no, I just want to wrap up on the point of sort of bringing awareness to the types of conversations that people should be looking out for going forward because you know like the conversation. There we go. There's a difference between conversation and debate.
Yeah.
So what we've had is a conversation and...
Nah, fuck you, mate. I've been arguing with you the whole time.
Nah, man, we've had a conversation. If I was debating you, I would have dug my heels in and I would have stuck with my beliefs no matter what, because that would have been a debate. But we had a conversation.
I'm bad at debating, man. I'm so bad. I can't debate because I'm just like, I don't want to argue.
Man, you just got to find something you're passionate about. I'm
passionate about everyone just getting on, man. That's it.
There you go. Well, that's
literally it. I'm just like, just cut your bullshit and just get on.
So yeah, I just feel like we've got to be very aware of what media we're sort of being fed and sort of look at how much they do.
They want to influence you.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that media necessarily has bad intentions when they put these stories forward, but sometimes it can.
Some of them do. Daily Mail's pretty bad. The Sun's pretty bad.
I'll talk about mainly like the online ones as well. Like Facebook's toxic, dude.
Oh, Facebook's fuck Facebook. I know, I totally agree, man. But this is the thing of it sucks, but that's what most people consume.
Well,
and it's very easy to get into that bubble of like just consuming the media you want to look at because it aligns with your beliefs.
So there was something on Facebook that came up the other day, and there was no evidence, as far as I was aware, in any of the videos, and I looked hard for it, there was no evidence of it being a racial incident. But straight away the media goes, white woman attacks multiracial family or something like that. And I don't... And that's what I don't... That's the one! I don't know why that had to be a race thing.
Yeah, I watched it, and I agree with you.
Yeah, and that's what I want to sort of raise awareness about. Like,
there's no video. There's no mention of race.
There's no need for it. There's no need for it, and I think it's when media does that. That's actually, and I know that's quite a left. The media source that I got it from was quite a left-wing media source, and they're normally very good with sort of pointing out racial injustices when it happens. But that was just pointing it out, and it didn't really have any necessity to it.
Mm-hmm. Then it gets views, isn't it? It gets clicks. And that's unfortunately what drives fucking print media, man, and online media is just big headline to get as many clicks as you can, and that in itself is toxic. I don't read no online media. No, don't read The Guardian, don't read The Independent. I used to read The Guardian and The Independent, and then I got sick of it. then I went to BBC. And then I got sick of that because I was like, I know you need to be impartial, but I wish you'd just call people out.
Yeah.
There was a media, like a mainstream media outlet that is like LBC. LBC, I fucking love listening to because
I love LBC.
Grounded people, rational, grounded people.
And a spectrum as well.
Yeah. I'm like, I love listening to it because I'm like, these are very well spoken and they know their shit.
Yeah.
And they're challenging everybody, and that's what I like.
Quick break. It cut out just before Kieran got to say Daryl Davis. Kieran was going to ask me if I'd heard of Daryl Davis. No. Well, now I have. No.
You might have heard of what he's done. In America, he is the black man who has converted over 200 KKK members.
Wow.
Does that ring a bell? Or do you know?
No, I've not heard of that. See.
Okay. He went on Joe Rogan podcast.
Love that podcast.
I would highly recommend you watch it.
Okay,
It's
after this I will actually watch the whole thing and
if you
put my thoughts in the sort of like the finishing part of the video.
Mm-hmm. If you want to get an idea of how we need to tackle this idea of hate, listen to Daryl Davis. He puts it so well. He takes the issue like he's a child, the mind of a child, like, and he doesn't take it personally. It's like compassion and empathy, and it's like, why should they feel this way? The question he poses, it was like when he was younger, I won't give too much away, but I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
He was like, he had this question of, why do you hate me when you don't know me? And he's had that question in his mind, and watch the podcast. It's great.
I think we've got enough there to, for me to think about, and for everyone else to have a little munch on as well. As always, Kieran, always insightful. Always appreciate your
That's fine.
your opinion on things. That was awesome, dude. Thank you very much.
No worries, man. Thanks for having me on.
Take care. All right. Big thank you for Kieran for coming on for episode 2 of the Happy Russell Journey podcast. Damn, lots to think about. Before my conversation with Kieran, I genuinely thought it was just a few changes that need to be done with the policing system in America. Now I'm seeing it's an issue that goes a lot deeper, possibly leaking into the education system as well, and through our education system sort of subliminally putting prejudices in our sort of collective consciousness without us even knowing it. A great example of these sort of subliminal messages are sort of found in religion as well. If you look at white Jesus, Jesus weren't a white guy, and but as far as Western culture is concerned, whenever you see a picture of Jesus, he's this jacked up white guy on a cross, and that's not an accurate representation of who he was at all. So it's little things like that sort of infect our collective consciousness and sort of create these prejudices without us even realizing it. So I think it would be very good if there's some sort of change that can be done to the education system in order to teach a more objective reality to what history has been done throughout the years. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I think that's enough for me to think about. That's enough for you guys to think about. Let me know what you think. Let me know how we handled the conversation. Let me know if there's anything you feel that we missed out. As always, take care. Love you lots. Goodbye.